Mark Super Samoan Hunt!
Mark Hunt's gonna unload. Mark Hunt teed up. That's it.
For a man who doesn't have gold belts and win streaks to boast about, Mark Hunt has made quite a name for himself in the combat sports world, thanks to his compelling personality, unmatched resilience, and unique fighting style, especially his trademark walk-off knockouts. Don't let his losing record fool you into thinking that Hunt is an average Joe in mixed martial arts. His legacy is far greater than what the numbers may suggest. The question is, just how good was Mark Hunt? Welcome to Hype Sport, where today we'll look back at Mark Hunt's most impressive career moments to find out the answer. Born into a hellish home life dominated by an abusive father, Mark Hunt had a rough childhood, which culminated in him finishing up on the wrong side of the law 2 times for violent offenses. The UFC legend regularly engaged in street fights and violence in his younger years until he was provided with an outlet to unleash his anger in a sanctioned manner. As strange as it may sound, Hunt's fighting talent was discovered by a bar bouncer when he engaged in a bar brawl in Auckland a few weeks after his release from prison for the second time. During the fight that lasted roughly 2 minutes, Hunt put multiple people to sleep. Bouncer Sam Marsters was so impressed by Hunt's granite chin and knockout power that he invited him to formally train at his gym. A week later, Hunt won his first Muay Thai fight by knockout. After fighting 18 times in kickboxing with 14 wins, Hunt was signed by K1. In the early part of his kickboxing career, Hunt was considered nothing more than a stepping stone for the up-and-comers in the sport. Despite being overlooked for a major portion of his career, Hunt managed to defy the odds on more than a dozen occasions. In his kickboxing career, which spanned from 1999 to 2003 with a lone comeback fight in 2008, Hunt won 30 out of his 43 bouts, with 13 of them coming by way of knockout. Hunt won the K1 Grand Prix 4 times. The kickboxing and MMA legends rivalry with Jerome Le Banner is one of the highlights of his K1 career. In their 4 fights, Le Banner managed to win 3 times. But Hunt's knockout win against him in 2001 remains the talking point. In their first kickboxing fight, Hunt's lack of ring craft allowed Le Banner to corner him and tee off. It was a fairly one-sided affair, which the Frenchman managed to win without too much hassle. Hunt made significant adjustments in their rematch, where Le Banner still managed to corner him, but instead of covering up, Hunt fired back with a cracking 1-2 combination to hurt his opponent. Hunt threw the Frenchman onto the ropes and swarmed him with one of the most vicious flurries in K1 history to pull off a chilling knockout victory. Hunt's win against Le Banner was a perfect exhibition of his power and toughness. The New Zealander never quitted his kickboxing career, as 12 out of his 13 kickboxing losses went the distance, with 1 corner stoppage. After saying goodbye to kickboxing, Hunt entered the unforgiving world of mixed martial arts in 2004, where he hardly ever had an easy fight. After a loss and a win in his first 2 MMA fights, Hunt faced Wanderlei Silva and Mirko, 2 of the scariest knockout artists in Pride, in his next 2 fights. Hunt secured split decision wins against both Silva and Krokop, who were at the peak of their powers at the time. The Brazilian in particular was coming off an 18-fight unbeaten run with 14 knockout wins, so Hunt's win against him is especially super impressive in hindsight. After defeating Silva and Krokop, Hunt won another 2 fights by knockout after losing 6 in a row against the likes of Gegard, Mousasi, Fedor, Emelianenko, Manhoef, Alistair, Overeem, and Sean McCorkle in his UFC debut at UFC 119 in 2010. Interestingly, 5 of his 6 losses came via submission. Since Hunt had a kickboxing background, his grappling wasn't advanced enough for him to compete against some of the best fighters in the world. Moreover, after taking Hunt down and submitting him rather than standing and trading shots with him was a far safer route to victory for his opponents. Hunt was widely respected for his thunderous knockout power, which he displayed in his mixed martial arts bouts that followed. At 5-7, as a professional MMA fighter, Hunt was offered $400,000 $100,000 by Dana White to quit fighting, but he refused to take the easy way out. In his next 17 MMA fights, Hunt won almost as many times as he lost against some of the best heavyweights on the planet, but he put his show on every single time he stepped inside the UFC's famed octagon. After an unsuccessful UFC debut, Hunt bounced back in a big way against Chris Tuchscherer. Their fight lasted a round and a half as Hunt stalked down Tuchscherer and landed some clean shots on him. Failing to keep up with a better striker, Tuchscherer level changed to shoot for a double leg, but midway through his takedown attempt, Hunt caught him with a huge uppercut and walked off as Tuchscherer fell face first onto the canvas. Almost exactly 1 year later in 2012, Hunt passed another tough test with flying colors. His opponent, Cheick Kongo, had him stumbling in the first round after checking a leg kick, but Hunt recovered and floored Kongo, who managed to make his way back up. It wasn't long before Hunt pressed Kongo against the cage and rattled him with a big right hand that sent him running. The Frenchman, unfortunately, had nowhere to run or hide as Hunt chased him down with powerful shots until he fell onto the canvas. Hunt then followed with some ground and pound until referee Herb Dean called the fight. Hunt next fought the 7-foot-tall Dutch skyscraper Stefan Struve in a slugfest that lasted nearly 3 rounds. The size difference between the fighters was comically huge, but Hunt couldn't care less about it. Hunt pushed the pace in the first round, but he found it increasingly hard to connect with Struve's head. In the second round, the trend continued for the first 2 minutes before Hunt found his rhythm and started having more success with his punches. Interestingly, Hunt also secured a couple of takedowns and unleashed heavy ground and pound. With Struve visibly exhausted by the end of the second round, he decided to stand and trade shots instead of moving around, and Hunt obliged. While both fighters were landing shots, Struve was taking more damage. Seconds before the end of the third round, Hunt landed a big right to the temple, followed by a big left to the jaw to demolish the skyscraper in the blink of an eye, capping his night off with another walk-off KO. A loss and draw later, Hunt faced one of the toughest heavyweights in history, Roy Nelson, in 2014. The kickboxing and MMA legend fought conservatively in the first round, but once the fight entered the second round, the two fighters started swinging wildly with most of their shots missing the mark. Nelson briefly secured a takedown, but Hunt got right back up and started throwing heat again. Moments later, Hunt met Nelson's attempt to duck and strike with a thunderous uppercut that sent the American packing. That was Hunt's third walk-off KO in the UFC, and arguably his most impressive, given the fact that Nelson is known for having a granite chin. Nelson has only been knocked out 3 times in his 19 losses. If that doesn't tell you much about Hunt's incredible knockout power, maybe his stoppage wins against Antonio Bigfoot Silva and Frank Mir will. Hunt's first fight against Silva ended in a draw, but he didn't leave the rematch at the mercy of the judges. The rematch, which took place at UFC 193 in 2015, lasted less than 4 minutes, with both fighters feeling each other out in the first half of round number 1. Once they started opening up, Hunt made Silva pay for making the mistake of standing in his face by connecting with a big overhand right to the temple. Silva crumbled on his knees as Hunt followed with 3 more rights, forcing the referee to intervene and save the big Brazilian from further CTE. Hunt's fourth walk-off KO came against Frank Mir in March 2016 when he unleashed his nuclear warhead of a right hand on the BJJ ace. After 3 minutes of little to no action, Hunt caught Mir with a vicious right to the ear as he crumbled to the mat. In Mir's own words, it was by far the hardest punch he's ever received inside the octagon. Hunt's final knockout came against the man with the most knockouts in UFC heavyweight history, Derrick Lewis, in 2017. The threat was real for Hunt, especially early on, but Lewis's intimidating style started to subside as the fight progressed. Hunt was slow at the beginning, calculated in the middle, and violent in the fourth round when he blitzed Lewis against the cage, hurt him, and finished the job. In a way, Hunt's fight against Lewis was the perfect microcosm of his fighting life, where he went on about attacking his opponents slowly and methodically before unleashing his violence. Hunt is hardly someone you'd put up there with the GOAT of MMA, but he's still pretty much a hero thanks to his common man look but supernatural fighting attributes. That brings us to the question, just how good was Mark Hunt? Give us your thoughts about the kickboxing and MMA legend in the comments section below. If you liked our video, please subscribe to our channel and turn on the notifications so you get notified the next time we upload one. Thanks a lot for watching, and we'll see you next time.